Hello everyone, I'm Zoltan the Gamerman, and coming up are my honest thoughts on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy for the PlayStation 5. In this video, I'll be talking to you about how this game looks, how it sounds, a few thoughts about its story, and of course, what it feels like to run around in Star-Lord's jet-powered boots and blasting, kicking, hitting, and lots of times talking your way out of, but mostly into, trouble with the Guardians. Oh, and let's not forget trying to save the galaxy and everyone in it. So let's get right into it. If you've seen the trailers for this game, then you know that Guardians of the Galaxy looks fantastic. All of the places you visit with the Guardians look pristine and beautiful and interesting in many different ways. From the hostile wastelands of certain planets teeming with monsters trying to find out what the team members taste like, to the marketplaces of nowhere bustling with life and color, and the very functional and no-nonsense looking environments of the Nova Corps stations, they all feel almost real and believable. But most of all, they all look absolutely gorgeous. Same thing goes for the character models and their facial animations. And here, I don't just mean the movements of their mouths as they talk. Oh no, the Guardians' facial expressions uncannily match the feelings that they are trying to convey during the cutscenes. Whether it was joy, amusement, anger, or sorrow, I was almost always amazed at the awesome job the devs did with the facial expressions. Almost each and every time. By that I mean that there are certain situations where the mouth movements aren't really following what the characters are saying, but thankfully these instances were few and far between. I also want to say something about the way the characters look. When I first saw the trailer, I wasn't really convinced. I mean, when I first laid eyes on the Guardians, I thought,
"You are horrifying to look at."
I thought they were similar to the Marvel's Avengers heroes, you know, the ones that look like knockoffs of their MCU counterparts with the studio hoping to bank on their likeness. But after taking a closer look, and especially having spent a bit of time in the game and with each of the characters, I can say that these Guardians are their own thing, and I've come around to think that they all look really awesome and quite different than the MCU's Guardians. Well, except Rocket and Groot, but how many different ways can you design a genetically engineered bloodthirsty raccoon and a walking, talking tree? Anyway, I especially like Gamora's character design, as I think she looks much more badass in this game than she ever did in the MCU. The movement animations are also mostly spot on, with the team members' movements being believable, fluid, and well put together. The particle effects are also beautiful, and the effects of Peter's elemental guns also look really solid, and the way the characters move in battle and fight is quite unique to each one and very well executed all in all. One thing I really didn't enjoy was Peter's jumping animation, as to me it seemed a bit too unnatural, but you know, that may be just me nitpicking here. Now, as for the game's looks, they're almost universally
Really good.
So let's gently glide over now to sound.
You'll see by the size of your weapon that you must be a skillful warrior.
The first thing that comes to my mind when I think about Guardians of the Galaxy's sound, thanks in no small part to the MCU movies, is the music. I can honestly say that the music in Guardians of the Galaxy is always on point, and it always helps in painting a near-perfect picture of what is going on currently in the story and in the Guardians' hearts as well. And let me tell you, the classic hit songs played during some of the combat sequences, and especially at certain points in the story, holy shit did they get my blood pumping, and they made these sequences so much more fun and exciting. At a certain point in the story, I found myself eagerly singing along to the song that was playing and sitting on the edge of my seat, hands on my controller, and just barely being able to wait for the gameplay to start and me to start kicking some ass. Seriously, the way that the score is used in this game is masterful. So, congrats creators, you are
Wonderful.
As for the voice acting, it is also deserving of almost universal praise. The main characters all sound great, and their voice actors all did a bang-up job of bringing each of the Guardians' unique personalities and styles to light. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, did kinda sound to me like he had a little too much Point Break and not enough intergalactic space pirate in his voice, but I got used to him pretty quickly and actually got around to really enjoy his delivery and funny banter with the others. And I really did enjoy the dynamic chemistry between the characters and laughing almost every time they made a remark about one another or just simply expressed their different viewpoints about several elements of the story and the places they visited. I also liked hearing the secondary characters, whose voice actors did a really good job each and every time that they were on screen. Environmental sounds are also really well done, and whether the Guardians were walking through a barren snowy wasteland or a jungle or navigating the vastness of space, the sounds always made me feel like I was right there with them. Combat sounds are pretty impressive as well, with Peter's elemental guns sounding adequately impactful and appropriate for each of the elements that you can use. Groot's attacks and skills sound properly woody? Is that the right term? Yeah, anyway, Groot's attacks are appropriately woody, and Gamora and Drax's blade slashes and Rocket's bombs and weapons all sound very good, even if sometimes it was all chaos and blur and not very distinguishable. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy sounds get a solid awesome from me. Now let's continue with a bit about the story. In this game, the Guardians are already a well-established group and they are trying to get their heroes for hire business to really take off. Now, these Guardians aren't the goody two-shoes, always do the right thing and never cause any trouble kind of people. No. In addition to trying to stay on the right path, they also like money and living the good life, so they are always on the lookout for a score, and they often manage to get out of one unfavorable situation by getting into another, bigger one. And it's all very enjoyable through and through. The story does start off a bit slow, but after a few somewhat slow-burning chapters, so to speak, it really kicks things into high gear and does not let up all the way to the end. Some of the story's parts are joyous, some heartfelt, some moments are sad, some moments made me go, wait, what? And there is no shortage of moments that made me go, oh, yeah. All I can say is that I enjoyed the story from the beginning to the very end, and
I do not, cannot, will not
spoil anything from it, so it's time to move on to gameplay. If I had to sum up Guardians gameplay in a single sentence, that would be a breath of fresh air. Honestly, it is so much more enjoyable and fun and satisfying than what the trailers and even the gameplay preview have shown. You really have to experience playing this game for yourself to understand where I'm coming from here, but I'll try to explain as best I can. In Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, you play as Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, the leader of this ragtag team of heroes for hire, and as leader, you're charged with managing conflicts between team members, deciding where to look for the team's next big score, and also, and this is my favorite part, leading them into and throughout combat. And let me tell you why. Star-Lord isn't the Guardians' leader because he's the strongest. In fact, he is arguably kind of the weakest of them when it comes to raw power. What makes him the leader, however, is his ability to make quick and correct decisions both on and off the battlefield. And it's completely up to the player to make these decisions throughout the game. Now, you can only play as Star-Lord, and as him, you can shoot enemies in the face with your elemental guns and also glide up close to them and punch and kick them as hard as you can. However, the first fight sequence was enough for me to realize that Peter, as a solo act, would not be much of a force to be reckoned with.
metaphor.
Luckily though, you can use him to issue commands to the other Guardians who have lots of aces up their sleeves and can make mincemeat out of your enemies in spectacular fashion. And how you have to use the team members' abilities and also Peter's elemental guns all depends on the types of enemies that you encounter. And let me tell you, mixing and matching and combining the Guardians' abilities to suit the type of battle that you're currently in is just loads of fun. Sometimes the number and variety of enemies that the team had to face at once could be somewhat overwhelming, but it honestly never lacked that fun factor. This was especially the case when I filled up the necessary gauge and got the Guardians to form a huddle, which essentially meant hitting pause on the fight and having the lovable
bunch of jackasses standing in a circle,
with Star-Lord saying a few words of encouragement to fire them up and give them a boost in combat. This also meant that a classic rock and roll or pop song would start playing while you were kicking ass. And let me tell you, fighting the enemies to these songs and listening to the Guardians react to your commands and enjoying taking down the baddies was just absolute buckets of fun. The one thing that bothered me though was that whenever I issued a command to one of the Guardians and they weren't in the exact proximity of the enemies that I pointed them towards, they didn't run over and use their abilities, they just simply disappeared from the place that they were at and appeared close enough to the enemies to execute their ability animation. I mean, I do understand that urgency is vital when fighting off lots of bad guys, but I really would not have minded waiting a bit and seeing the Guardians walking or running over to where I pointed them and executing their abilities there. Seeing them just pop up out of nowhere was really bothersome and took away from my immersion quite a bit. Other than that though, every other part of combat is truly amazing. When it comes to exploration and just generally navigating the areas that the Guardians visit throughout the game, they also give you the opportunity to get the most out of the team members. There are certain areas where you have to use the abilities of one or more team members to advance, and solving these small puzzles, especially after getting the hang of the whole dynamic, was also really fun. While exploring, you can find these things called parts that you can use to upgrade Star-Lord's equipment and weapons, and also several costumes and skins for the Guardians. To sum it up, gameplay is magnificent! As you know, on this channel, we measure playtime in weekends, but Guardians of the Galaxy came out on a Tuesday and I just could not wait to start the adventure. This meant logging in a few hours on launch day and also a couple of hours in the days leading up to the weekend as well. However, the bulk of the game I played on Saturday and Sunday, managing to finish it in the evening of the latter. In weekend terms, this means about 1.5 to 2 hardcore gaming weekends. And for me, this game really was a no-holds-barred, glued to the screen and my controller kind of experience. I just simply could not tear myself away whenever I sat down to play. Now, the playtime can probably be extended by almost an entire extra weekend if you want to play more casually and also find all of the hidden treasures the game world hides. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was truly the most pleasant gaming surprise of the year so far. I did have really low expectations for it following the Avengers debacle, but holy f*** did it go above and beyond all of them. And I don't mean this as in I was expecting a shit game and it turned out to be sort of okay. I mean, I really was expecting it to be shitty, but what it turned out to be is a really well-made, enjoyable, fun game with an exciting and heartfelt story, funny and relatable characters, and just an all-around wholesome experience. I can honestly say that after Marvel's Spider-Man, which will always have a special place in my heart, Guardians of the Galaxy is the best superhero game that I've played, period. And okay, you can put away the pitchforks and the torches. I know that means putting it above the Arkham series, which I also really enjoy and love, but I guess I just prefer flying colorful sparks, witty banter, and lighthearted fun to gritty, dark, and steely-eyed super seriousness. The Guardians are getting a well-deserved
9.
out of 10 from me. Alright, you beautiful people, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to blast that like button if you've enjoyed this review, comment what you like or maybe what you dislike most about this game, and subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. I'm Zoltan the Gamer Man, and these have been my honest thoughts on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy for the PlayStation 5. Take care, be well, and as always, keep on gaming.